You are now listening to The Social Show live with Viwe Tyolwana, only on brandlive.co.za.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to The Social Show, your one-stop shop of all things CSI and CSR. I am so happy to be back on this beautiful Monday morning. It is sunny, a bit chilly. You can see that the winter is coming in, but I think we're all ready for it. I think it's giving us a bit of a glimpse as to what we can expect this year. It's going to be a crazy winter. But as usual, I'm going to start off the day with the news, and hopefully it's going to cheer you up and make you want to wake up and go to work and be happy. Okay. Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries Senzeni Zokwana is set to visit agricultural colleagues as part of the government Imbizo Focus Week. Grootfontein Agricultural Development Zokwana has visited Grootfontein Agricultural Development Institute and will visit Fort Cox College of Agriculture and Forestry. Education and training in the agriculture and forestry and fisheries sectors is facing a number of challenges, including the legislation governing colleges of agriculture, employability of agricultural college graduates, and the participation of women and youth in these three sectors. Following these challenges, the Imbizo will emphasize implementation of norms and standards for agricultural training institutes, which are expected to be officially endorsed as a guideline to the mandate of these colleges. The Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries has commented, saying the Imbizo will be used as a platform to engage with stakeholders in education and training of the three sectors in efforts to support and drive the development of the agenda of food security and rural wealth creation. In other news, Small Business Development Minister Lindy Wezulu said on Friday, the 21st of April, that they have now launched the Center of Entrepreneurship in Welkom, Free State, saying such a center will promote entrepreneurship as a career of choice. The center is the 9th such hub in the country, and the launch of the center forms part of the 6th National Imbizo Focus Week themed Together We Move South Africa Forward, Our Future, Make It Work. The minister said, given South Africa's past, the majority of black people were left out of the mainstream economy, and government now firmly aims to support those who want to start their own businesses. This is a platform where they are being empowered to understand what it means to be an entrepreneur. The minister acknowledged that not everyone can go to university, and the government felt it important to support TVT colleges to introduce entrepreneurship studies. And she said this is because they have seen already the importance of small and medium enterprises that are growing tremendously in South Africa. Lastly, the Barclays Africa Group's 2017 CEO Scholarship Fund has increased to 210 million, allowing 3,000 university students across its 10 African markets to achieve scholarships for the current academic year. The 2017 allocation is in partnership with 21 universities in South Africa and several others in the rest of the continent. In 2016, the fund disbursed 80 million in scholarship to 2,000 students in universities across South Africa. 2,250 scholarships will be allocated to South African students, while 750 will go to students in Barclays Africa operating regions, which are outside of South Africa. 500 of the local scholarships will be granted to ABSA staff member dependents. The Barclays Africa operations outside of South Africa will begin rolling out their 2017 scholarship programs when their academic year commences in September. The CEO Scholarship Fund forms part of the education and skills development pillar of Barclays Africa's shared growth strategy, through which it has undertaken to invest 1.4 billion in education and skills training between 2016 and 2018. Education and skills development, enterprise development, and financial inclusion are the three pillars of shared growth, which aims to create shared value for communities and stakeholders. Barclays Africa Group's Chief Executive Maria Ramos said university education unlocks opportunities that can change the lives of young people and the future of our continent. This is an expression of their shared growth commitment to help realize Africa's potential and contribute to the long-term long-term economic growth. And this investment has been made possible by the hard work and dedications of the colleagues in their business. And she said that she is proud to see them committing to making a visible difference in the lives of thousands of young Africans. And that concludes our news for the day.
Have you ever thought about the power of social media? Social media has the power to make your business grow. Grow! Yeah. Why don't you let us manage your social media? Because our business is to see your business grow. Visit us at www.bstownmedia.co.za.
Look, I know it's early morning, I know it's a Monday, but I have to ask this question to all the people who are listening. I really want to know whether or not, number one, you know about Earth Day, and two, what it is that you did for Earth Day. Now, a lot of people are not clued up as to what Earth Day is, and it's very important. It's a very important day. It's a day that marks a very beautiful, a new ideology that came into mainstream thoughts about how companies actually execute their businesses, how people live their daily lives, and also just marked the beginning of being, environmentally conscious. And I think it's a very important day. I think it's a day that isn't necessarily celebrated in the way that I would have liked to be celebrated in South Africa. Earth Day was not, I didn't see a lot of Earth Day posts. I didn't see Earth Day trending on my Twitter page. So the question for today's show is, what did you do for Earth Day? And if you actually knew about Earth Day at all. I'm pretty sure that we have a lot of people who understand about greening and environmental awareness and recycling. We understand that, but do we understand that there's a day that it was marked, that actually marked the beginning of that ideology and that concept of being aware of how responsible companies, people are to the environments in which they live. So each year, Earth Day is on the 22nd of April. Now I want you to engrave that in your head, so you cannot forget it. So it's every year on the 22nd of April, and it marks the anniversary of the birth of the modern environmental movement in 1970. Now, the height of counterculture in the United States, 1970, obviously brought the death of Jimi Hendrix. We can't forget that, 1970. The Lost Beatles album, oh my word. And Simon and Garfunkel's Bridge Over Troubled Water, which we can never forget. At the time, Americans were actually going through quite a hard time in terms of their environment, and they didn't know. They were slurping leaded gas through massive V8 sedans. Industry was literally belched out in smoke. Well, the industry belched out smoke and sludge with little fear of legal consequences or bad press. Air pollution was commonly accepted as the smell of prosperity. I remember growing up actually in the Eastern Cape. Whenever we used to come to Johannesburg, because my mother worked in not Johannesburg, Pretoria rather, I'd always complain as to, and I mean this is like 10 years ago, I'd always complain that it's not like nice to breathe in the air in Pretoria. But then I also realized it was because of the mass industry that operate in Pretoria, but also it was because it was a bigger city, so a lot more people are contributing to the livelihood of the actual city. So I kind of understood it from that perspective. However, I didn't really realize how important and in fact how polluted, or how extremely dangerous it must be for people living, especially in informal settlements in the big cities, and how much of this air they were breathing in. And this is exactly what was happening in America at the time. Although it came to us a little bit later, that information came to South Africa, or Africa rather, a little bit later. However, air pollution was commonly accepted as a smell of prosperity, as I said, and environment was a word that appeared more often in spelling bees than on evening news. So you'd find that environment, or the concept of environment, felt far from you, far-fetched. You weren't part of the environment. People didn't see themselves as part of the environment. You saw yourself as, more important because you're human and you're more intellectual. However, we are a part of the ecosystem, and that's something that we needed to really get into our systems and in our way of living and in our way of thinking and in our way of working. And although mainstream America largely remained oblivious to the environmental concerns, the stage had been set for a change by the publication of Raquel Carson, a New York Times speller, which was Silent Spring in 1962. And the book actually represented a watershed moment, selling more than 500,000 copies in 24 countries and beginning to raise public awareness and concern for living organisms, the environment, and the links between pollution and public health. Now, Earth Day in 1970 gave voice to that emerging consciousness, channeling the energy of the anti-war protest movement and putting environmental concerns on the forefront, which I think is so important because at the time there was a lot of I think it was during the time of the Vietnam War, so environment not only was something that people didn't really think that they were part of, it was also at the back end of the fact that there was a war going on, there was a bit of friction going on, and so it wasn't really something people were talking about or thinking about in a conducive or progressive way. So the idea for a national day to focus on the environment came to Earth Day founder, who is Gaylord Nelson, also an American, and at that time he was the U.S. Senator from Wisconsin. After witnessing the ravages of the 1969 massive oil spill in Santa Barbara, California, inspired by the student anti-war movement, he realized that if he could infuse that energy with an emerging public consciousness about air and water pollution, it would force environmental protection onto the national political agenda. And needless to say, now we have a day to commemorate Earth Day. You know, he then built a national staff of 85 to promote events across the land on April the 22nd, falling between spring break and final exams. That's in America, and that's why it was selected as this date. Now, on April 22, 1970, 20 million Americans took to the streets, parks, and auditoriums to demonstrate for a healthy, sustainable environment in massive coast-to-coast rallies. Thousands of colleges and universities organized protests against the deterioration of the environment. Groups that have been, fighting against oil spills, polluting factories, and power plants, shared common values, and they realized how important it was that we curb, the polluting of factories and power plants, raw sewage, toxic dumps, pesticides, and freeways and the loss of wilderness, and I think also the extension of a lot of wildlife. A lot of the time that's also at the back end of what's important, when you find that a lot of organisms, a lot of animals are not surviving because of man-made issues, like obviously like we power plants and like I said, toxic dumps, and not really recycling, and not waste. How are we actually dealing with the waste that we were producing, and how is it going to be conducive and sustainable? Are we using sustainable methods to make sure that we recycle and we keep our environments and our earth healthy, so that people can carry on living soon after we're dead? So Earth Day in 1970 achieved a rare political alignment at the time, enlisting support from Republicans and Democrats, rich and poor, city slickers, farmers, tycoons, and labor leaders. And this year actually marked the 48th annual celebration of Earth Day, and I think it is very important that we start as a country to have more insight as to what we can do on Earth Day. I know a lot of companies are going green, which I'm very proud of. I know a lot of CSI strategies are about the environment, are about making sure that companies are socially responsible. Also, I spoke about this quite a lot last week, is the fact that you are actually legally advised to have a social responsible program in your company. You have to make sure that you are giving to the community, and also you have to make sure that you are being responsible in whatever tactics you are engaging in your business, whether it's new. And I mean, there's a lot of and this is such important information. And I wonder, now that I was speaking about these this new school in Valcom about entrepreneurial center that the minister just started, of small businesses, I wonder if concepts about environmental awareness, making sure that your business is responsible, making sure that your business, we're running away from tax, we're running away from making sure that you don't have problems with the government, you don't have problems with SARS, you don't have problems with your community. Are you investing in your community? But are you also making sure that the environment is not being damaged or is not being compromised because of whatever product you're selling or whatever service you're giving? It's also another thing that I wonder is if it's something that is included in this new school in Valcom, and that's the kind of things that we would want to see in the new entrepreneurs coming forth. We don't just want to see new businesses come in front. I mean, that's very important. We want to see economic growth. We want to make sure that more entrepreneurs are being helped and being financed and are being supported by our government and by our communities. But we also want to make sure that we're having a new air of entrepreneurs, a new air who are environmentally conscious, community investors, people, social entrepreneurs. I know there's a lot of that coming up. We want to see that entrepreneurs have that social element to them, so that we're not just breeding the same kind of ideologies and consciousness when it comes to business, but we're also having a new perspective that is a little bit more responsible and a little bit more has an idea and it can take charge of the environment and what it means to make sure that our environment is kept safe and our animals are kept safe and our ecosystem is kept safe. So the question for today is, even if you aren't an entrepreneur, what did you do for Earth Day? What did you understand about Earth Day? And if you didn't know about Earth Day and you're just listening to it, or hearing about it today, why do you think that is so? Do you think it's a question of our country not emphasizing it enough from a corporate perspective, from even from a governmental perspective? I know there's a lot of issues around recycling and how we work with our waste. However, do we understand why we're doing what we're doing? Do we understand those concepts and how they link to sustainability of not only our environment and our ecosystems, but also of the children and the generation that is to come? Do we actually understand the gravitas of it all? But anyway, if you want to know what I did, I was actually with Miss Earth. I don't know if you guys know a little bit about Miss Earth. Now, Miss Earth is unlike any other pageant in South Africa because it is a pageant. Yes, we have these beautiful, beautiful girls who I got to meet, women actually, who I got to meet actually on a Friday. On the 21st of April. So I got my celebrations of Earth Day in early. That's how prepared I was. So they were planting some really I think they were planting a vegetable. Yeah, actually, we were planting a vegetable garden in Mondia Primary in the south of Johannesburg, and I was there, and I had such a great time, just learning a little bit about what those vegetables mean to the community, because they were planting, I think, spinach and broccoli and kale, and what they did is that they used that food to help struggling students and struggling workers at the school. So the workers, the cleaners, and the people who are working there and in the gardens and that kind of thing were able to take home some spinach and some broccoli whenever they can, which I think is amazing. But also the kids were so in line with what it means to plant, how to plant, and how many times you need to go and pour water on the plants. They had such a natural instinct and inclining to do that, and I thought that's exactly what we need to do. We need to make sure that we have kids in our schools who understand the importance of maintaining a garden and being able to grow something in your own backyard, maybe when you're a bit older, and understanding what that does for food security, what that does for people who have less than us. And again, it goes back to my biggest mantra, which is if we teach our kids how to give, how to be conscious about those who have and those who don't have, and how they can close that gap when they grow up by being giving and by being generous and by being sustainable thinkers that are that understand the world and understand their impact on the world and impact in people's lives. If they just give a little bit more, we're gonna have a generation of really, really amazing kids, and kids who are going to be able to lead this country with all that know-how being something that is instinctual to them rather than something that is far-fetched or a little bit far from them. So Miss Earth does that, which I think is great. Miss Earth is a pageant that emphasizes environmental health, and they also want to make sure that schools and children are also have that same information and are equipped enough to understand and handle and handle things such as Earth Day and just to be able to speak about it and understand it in a way that doesn't feel like it's foreign or it's for specific kinds of people. The environment is for everyone, and everyone plays an important part. Even in your little backyard, in your garden, you have so much at your disposal. You could grow, you could sell, you could start your own business, you could become a farmer in your own home, you could sell at school, you could give to the less fortunate, you could cook it at your school, at your church. There's so many things you could do. Just understanding how to plant vegetables, how to maintain specific kinds of plants, how to make sure that we stay green and we stay healthy. And I think that's what Miss Earth does. And we will have them in studios soon, just to talk a little bit about the pageant a little bit more, and to talk about exactly what it is that they want to do and their mission for 2017. I know today they're in different parts of Johannesburg, planting trees, getting more vegetable gardens maintained in different schools, and I think that's beautiful. And I think the more they do that, the more kids understand and the more they want to help. And I think that's what it's about. It's about helping and it's about getting involved. And I think that's exactly what Miss Earth does. But when I get them in studio, we'll get the full gist of exactly what it is that they do and how they do it and how they plan to progress. And those women are so beautiful, but they're so environmentally conscious that makes them even more beautiful. So I got the chance to just sit down with them and have a really one-on-one conversation as to why they compete and why they contend and why they aren't at Miss SA or these other pageants. They're actually really, really passionate about environmental consciousness, and I think it's very beautiful to see and amazing to hear. So when I get them on studio, you can get me on Viewer for Real on my Twitter page, and you can tell me exactly what you think about what they do and where you can find them and how you can support their cause and come to the schools and do your best to support their initiatives and support Earth Day. Now it's past, but there's still World Enviro Day coming. There's still a lot of other days that are going to come where you can still make your mark and be an environmentally conscious person. It's not too late. Although if you didn't do anything, I am side-eyeing you right now. I'm side-eyeing you. So please make sure that next time you're a bit more aware and you have your plan. And if you don't have a plan, contact Miss Earth. There's so many other beautiful organizations and NGOs that are doing really great stuff with the environment. And I think it would do you justice to just do one thing on that day, even if it's not that big. It just as long as it's something, even if it's growing something in your back garden. And I hope it's something legal, by the way. I mean something legal. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. It's been a great show. It's a beautiful Monday. We all ready for the week. I hope you got something from today. And also don't forget to answer the question, which is, what did you do for Earth Day? What did you do? I was with Miss Earth. I was planting a vegetable garden. What did you do? Get me on Viewer for Real, or you can email me on press@social-tv.co.za, and I will be there with the answers, and I will talk to you again tomorrow, and I will answer you. So thank you so much for listening. Have a good one.
Live from 27 boxes in the heart of Melville, this is brandlive.co.za.